Hi, everybody. It's Chamber Chatter, and today we are with Joe Strauss from J.E. Strauss Consulting and CPA, and Lisa Schiller with Legal Shield Identity Theft. Right? Is that all together, Lisa?
Well, if you really want to be technical, it's Schiller and Associates.
Okay.
So, yes, Legal Shield and ID Shield.
ID Shield. All right. I knew there was more there. Should have wrote it down. So I was trying to do it all off memory this morning. Not a good idea for a Monday. I'm excited to have both of you guys here today. This is very nice. I appreciate you taking the time from your schedule. Um, First off, I was kind of want to see what's going on in your world right now. I know everything's a little crazy, but what are you doing with your business right now? You want to go ahead and go first, Lisa, and tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Sure, I can. Well, as all of us, we're adjusting to, a new normal, so to speak. Fortunately, in our business, I mean, it's very, very essential. There's more legal issues and legal questions evolving around the COVID situation, as well as some of the injustices that's recently going on in our country. And identity theft, unfortunately, whenever there's any type of a crisis, whether that's a natural disaster or something like the COVID-19, there's more an increase in fraud. So because of those two elements, the demand on our product is very high. So our law firms have been busier than they've ever been in 47 years. People want to know, how does this affect homeschooling, or what does this mean, or what is a medical directive, and do I need to have this, and what if I can't see my loved one at the hospital, or just so many questions. And then as business owners, we're all like, what does this mean to me? What do I need to have in place? It's a very fluid environment that we're all in. So these laws are changing daily. So it's important to have a good resource you can tap into on a regular basis. And as you know, we've provided for the chamber and any chamber member, whether they're a part of our program or not, a great COVID resource for small business owners so that we can find some information out that's changed on a daily basis. So that's kind of explains the rise in the demand for the services that we have. The delivery of that, of course, is changing like all of us are. So instead of on-site enrollment meetings for companies and meeting personally with business owners, which I love to do, we're doing it, of course, using technology. So I had to come into the technological world kicking and screaming because I was not exactly on the forefront of technology. So I had to get in line with the technology. So we are, of course, making resources available, free resources available to our existing clients, as well as those just in our community to help them through this situation. And then also just changing the way we deliver those services. All of our law firms across the country, of course, are working remotely as well. Our identity theft licensed private investigators. So we still have the same access, still 24/7, just it's delivered differently. You're going to see things via Zoom, via conference call, via webinars, rather than the face-to-face meetings. So that's a little bit how it's changed for me in my world. So I'll turn it back to you.
Now, Lisa, with the identity, that includes just can be your credit cards compromised as well, right?
Correct. It includes everything. And though most people want to think about, how does this affect my wallet? I mean, you think about all the commercials we see, right? It's who's in your wallet. It's, hey, did you know that your water bill just doubled, or did you just tip that waitress $200? And those are things that, number one, our financial institutions are keeping a very, very close eye on. So credit fraud is certainly a component of it, but true identity theft is really about anything detrimental to you as a person. It can be your driver's license, it can be your social security number, it can be social media. We're finding now in the environment that we're in, everyone's doing live streaming, right? We brought the movie house home, we brought everything in home. We're using the Google Assistant, we're using Alexa, we're doing all of those things electronically, and that brings in a new element of identity theft, right? With the new hackers and things like that. So we've risen to that challenge and unleashed 5 different enhancements to deal with that type of, even if you just called an investigator and said, hey, how do I set my settings so that they're not getting personal information when I'm streaming? So we're not thinking about those things. We're not thinking about, when you get pulled over for a traffic ticket now, I'm going to say most of the people that are going to be listening to this have been pulled over for a traffic ticket. I'm not the only one. And we know the drill, right? You driver's license, you hand it over, and then they go back and check your record. And we're seeing more and more when people are checking when the officers are checking the record, there's a bench warrant out for your arrest. And at that moment, it's not even an identity theft provider you need at that moment. You need access to an attorney 24/7, simply because they have to arrest you. I know 11 people personally that have been arrested for that very scenario. And it's resulted from either a stolen purse or wallet or these data breaches that are happening. So for example, you may not know that they're getting your driver's license. Someone uses their picture, your driver's license number, a citation goes against the victim instead of the perpetrator. So we don't know about that. We don't think about that as identity theft. Yes, yet it's very prevalent. We don't think about identity theft with someone using your medical benefits. Yet whatever they had done under our medical insurance now becomes part of our medical ID. So in other words, if someone had their appendix out under our insurance, we'd no longer have appendix in our medical record. So who do we go to resolve these issues? So identity theft does include the financial aspect of it. I know one of the biggest things right now that employers are concerned about and business owners are concerned about for those that offer a 401k or an HSA, there's nowhere that says that those funds have to be put back in the event of fraud. So they're very, when you talk to HR directors or controllers or financial professionals, they're concerned about that. So we've risen to that as well with adding a fraud package to the ID Shield, so that says that if that happens, funds will be put back in. So there's things that we just need to be aware of, that identity theft is far bigger than our finances. It really involves any aspect of our life that's used to our detriment. So it's important to understand that as a consumer.
Every time I listen to you talk, it just freaks me out more and more, though. I find it very interesting, but it's so scary because there's so many other things that you'll bring up and you're like, wow, that's really, frightening that could happen to people.
And Joel, the truth of that is the goal isn't to scare people, it's to educate people. And quite frankly, even though I'm certified as an identity theft risk management specialist and those types of things, the education, I get the hard way, and that's the stories from people. When you meet someone that's dealt with identity theft for 26 years and they can't get it off their record, or it reoccurs, or the people that are arrested because someone stole their driver's license, or again, the medical tragedies that have happened. When you hear those stories, because I've been doing this for 15 years, you've met those people face to face. They're not a statistic, and the trauma that they're going through. And so it's unfortunate and it's sad, but it's also a great feeling knowing that I have an answer to the problem for them. Anytime we can be part of the solution instead of part of a problem, that's great. I think that's everybody's goal. So we want to make sure we can put people in the hands of licensed investigators that can really deal with the problem, not just a customer service agent or something like that. And then also on the legal side, it always ends up coming back legally many, many times with identity theft, simply because identity theft becomes a legal matter in many cases.
Right. Very good. Okay, Joe. What's going on in your world other than, we don't need to talk about all the times I call you for my dumb QuickBooks question. Cover that. You don't need to tell people how many times I call you, but what things are you doing to keep your business going during this time? And I know you're helping a lot of companies with loans and grants. And
my business has always been virtual to an extent. And I, did video conferencing before all this started, and spent many times long phone conferences utilizing cloud-based accounting systems and those kinds of things. So in that respect, using the technology, it hasn't been a lot different for me. It's been a little different for clients that I would normally meet with or so forth, that we need to take care of that, utilizing DocuSign and those kinds of things that maybe some of my older clients aren't quite as comfortable with. But so from that aspect, it hasn't been a whole lot different for me. Now, from the standpoint of all the new tax stuff that has occurred, the extensions of due dates and and new programs and so forth. And then of course, the whole virus government relief program structure with PPPs and EIDLs and small business relief grants and other programs similar to that. It has created what is essentially a second tax season for me. So while I'm still working on tax returns that are going to be due here in July, probably half of my time or more has been dedicated to helping clients with all the relief programs and trying to negotiate cash flow questions, employee related questions, and we're now starting to shift a little bit to, you know, as the economy is starting to reopen and the lockdown orders have been relaxed somewhat. You know, what does my business look like going forward in this environment, and what are the risks that I need to be dealing with, you know, considering, and it's just it's been a whole new realm of things that we hadn't anticipated. I'm supposed to be relaxing in May, okay? And that's not happening.
Well, I do have to say thank you to you for being up on all that and doing all of my loans and grants. Because when Joe came to me and told me that the chamber could file for these things, I said, okay, how long is this going to take me to do this? And how long would it take you to do this? And when it came very clear that it would take Joe no time and me lots of time, the choice was very simple there.
Well, and as you know, unfortunately, the chamber was not eligible under the PPP rules. But there are a couple other programs we've looked at. There's a credit through the IRS for called the Employee Retention Credit, that essentially you get an offset against your payroll taxes. So we're taking advantage of that for the chamber and a couple other clients that I'm working with on that as well.
Hey, Joe, do a lot of people not know about that one? Because in all the groups and when I hear people talking about all the different things to apply for, it seems like no one brings that up. So is that not a well-known?
Well, the issue is you can't apply for the PPP and those programs at the same time. If you got a PPP loan, you're not eligible for those credits. There has been some legislation recently that was passed by the House and is now being taken up by the Senate that one of the stipulations in that would actually allow employers to utilize both programs, both the PPP and the tax credits. Hopefully the Senate acts on that relatively quickly, because it's going to affect the PPP loan forgiveness rules. And we're at the point now where we've got PPP loans that have reached their 8-week coverage period and they're ready to apply for loan forgiveness. And a little up in the air as to whether the rules are going to change or not. So that's causing a number of my clients some anxiety.
How do you keep up on all this? Like, are you like sitting there spending all this time, like researching, learning, webinars? I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, the day after the CARE Act, which included the PPP loan program, passed, I think that passed on a Friday. I spent a good part of my Saturday combing through the law and trying to analyze it and figure out what it meant. Unfortunately, the PPP loan program kind of reminds me of when my daughter was young and she would ask me a question and I would answer the question, and then she'd say, why? And then I would answer that question, and she would say, well, why? And I would answer that question. Everything in the rules has caused another question that needs an answer. There was the question, okay, utilities were a covered expense under PPP to be forgiven. Well, what are utilities? What are utilities under the definition of this? There's transportation costs are covered. Well, what are transportation costs? Payroll costs. There's as you drill down into these things, there's just more and more questions that come about than you have answers for. So a lot of my counseling to clients has been, let's not rush too quickly. Let's just kind of take our time, wait for further guidance from the SBA, Treasury Department, State of Michigan, etc. Because the rules are changing. And
hey, question for you. Like, a lot of the colleges now have the thing on their sites where it says for the CARES Act and you can get refunds. Is it just a refund? Is that a loan? Do you know what the terms are with that, with colleges? That the students can apply for?
I don't specifically, I know a lot of the colleges have given refunds for tuition and stuff for the, prorated tuition and other expenses that you paid for. I don't recall exactly under how it ties into the CARES Act, but
it's like a button on like their website. I know my daughter went and filled it out. It said CARES Act, and then you can apply for money.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
See, look, I gave you some more studying.
Okay, thank you.
Let me know what to find out.
Okay.
All right, so Lisa, do you have any good advice or tips for businesses right now when they're already struggling financially, and with what and what things they should be focusing on or doing? Or
Yes, I do, Joe, and I think it's so important. I'm sure you, Joe, myself, and other business owners, we're trying to bring value to our clients. It's not just about, writing memberships and making money. Certainly that's my livelihood, but first and foremost, I want to provide value added to the clients that I do have. And, just even listening to what Joe is saying, you can be, a CPA, you can sell insurance, there's all kinds of things that we can do as a livelihood. But ultimately what we're going through in this environment, they are legal questions, right? Now imagine, Joe, you could pick up the phone, you can try to decipher everything, but really they're legal questions, and those are changing daily, So one of the things that we provide, in the COVID resource, and again, for those of you that don't have it, it's covid19.legalshieldbenefits.com, and that's there for everybody, covid19.legalshieldbenefits.com. So there's a variety of things in there for questions and things like that. But also know that what I've done is I've tried to bring value. For example, many more people now are thinking about medical directives. I don't know if either of you have been involved personally, but I have, in the last 2 weeks, lost a friend and lost an uncle. And going through that process of loss, realizing you can't get to the person who's in the hospital, right? So you can't get to your spouse, you can't get to your loved one, you can't get to them. How important and critical people are understanding medical directives are. So my clients who have our services, I need to remind them medical benefits, wills, powers of attorney are all included in our legal plans. And with something that's less than $20 a month, that's something people should take advantage of. So again, just a reminder for people to take advantage of what they have, to reach out and call, even if it's every day. Imagine having access to a law firm that's having to keep on top of the legal ramification of these laws every day, and be able to get those responses that you need for your business, for your employees, for yourself and your family. Because outside of the family plans, we do have business plans. So it allows all small business owners that are for-profit businesses, unfortunately can't be for nonprofits, but for for-profit businesses, where they can reach out on ask those questions or get a document reviewed or have a letter written on their behalf. I personally have used my own legal plan. I used it 3 times last week. Once was just to review some class action lawsuit, card that I got in the mail that I don't want to spend the time figuring it out. Another was to have a document reviewed. Another was to write a letter to Delta Airlines because they didn't want to refund my money. They wanted to give me a voucher. Well, I've had to cancel several trips. I have enough vouchers. I need to have some of the cash back, right? So with a letter written to them, it's amazing how quickly I got my refund. So it can be the day-to-day things. So what I'm providing are things like will workshops, for example. I can send over a video just to let people know the importance of having those in place and how to get started on it if they choose to have our services. I can also do identity theft workshops, let them know what to look for, especially now in the environment they're in where we're having cyber bullying. How do you keep up with your kids? Those of you that have teenagers that are falling prey to that. Or as consumers, we might be asking Alexa something, not understanding what Alexa is actually capturing as far as personal information, and how can we change that? So I want to make sure that I'm providing that value and reminding people this is what we have, and getting to them and saying, please use this. Employees that are on leave, because all of these questions are affecting business owners. What am I entitled to from a legal perspective, and then obviously from a tax perspective. But what can we do with our employees who are working remote? And those are so fluid, those answers, that it's important that we can reach out to a resource. So I want to be able to provide that resource. I'll give you a couple more, maybe a PDF, Joel, if you want to put them on the site where people can access it just to try to help navigate. And then just to remind them, we do have services that are available not only for individuals, but for businesses where they could take advantage of to help get through the crisis, because we just need to have information and education, what we can and what we can't do, and use those resources to better our businesses, to better our family relationships.
Yep. Lisa, I know you had sent me some attachments, so if you have additional ones, give that to me, and I will do a follow-up email to all our members with the material that we've talked about here today, so they can have
Great.
that. And I can put that link in post as well.
Great. Sounds good.
Joe, do you have any additional tips for any of the businesses out there right now as they're getting ready to reopen, or things that they should be looking into or doing at this point in time that can help them?
Sure. As I mentioned before, we're coming up on a loan forgiveness period ending unless that gets extended under any new legislation. Hopefully that is the case, because it would be helpful for a lot of small businesses. But I think I would encourage, it's really, our knee-jerk reaction is to think, what do I need to do right now, right? But I really want to encourage small businesses to kind of think strategically here a little bit. We've gone through survival mode, and now let's think strategically, and what does my business look like going forward? What are the risks that I need to consider and mitigate? Lisa may have some comment. There's a big question, and there could be legislation regarding legal liability if someone comes into your business and catches the virus, right? And God forbid dies or has serious complications from that. But so there's a legal liability issue associated with, am I prepared with PPP protecting my customers and so forth? But there's also protecting your employees. And obviously you want to protect your employees, because if you lose your employees, you can't stay in business. And then also from a reputation risk standpoint, do I want to be the business that's on Channel 7 News saying, well, they traced COVID, this COVID outbreak back to my business? I don't think so. So how do those risks need to be mitigated? And does my business model need to change? Am I a restaurant that never did carry out before, but now I need to really make carry out the major part of my business model? Do I need to hire different kinds of employees? Or do I need to institute training programs for employees to help them understand and work the technology better and those kinds of things? So there's a lot of strategic thought that I think needs to go into how I make my business work and continue to be successful and thrive over the next however long this takes. And I think it's going to, just the fact that we've had to go through this is going to change the way a lot of businesses choose to do business. The Zoom meeting, I've had a number of clients say, well, now that I'm doing Zoom and I'm realizing I don't have to drive everywhere all over the place, that might be something I want to continue to do. So, there's a number of technologies that I think people will start to integrate a lot more into their business models and utilize. So that would be my big encouragement is kind of, if you can, step back and think a little strategically about what this does to your business going forward.
Now, Joe, for people that did get the PPP loans and they're looking at the forgiveness and how to repay it back and all of that, are all accountants and CPAs up to speed like you are on these things? Should they be contacting who they work with for help? Because I know a lot of times they don't know what to do and they're confused because that's not their area of expertise.
From what I understand, there are varying degrees to which CPAs are getting involved with their clients and doing this stuff. A lot of them are very involved. I know some attorneys that are involved as well. SBA has assistance you can tap into. I think that's probably a little harder to get connected with, but obviously it's a free resource, not a resource you have to pay for. But I think the Michigan Economic Development Corporation maybe has some resources along those lines too.
I know we've offered a webinar here and there and stuff like that, but I know people that still have questions, like you're saying, sometimes it's hard to get through to those larger organizations. So maybe they could try to reach out to whoever if they use an accountant or something like that. They never thought to tap into and ask.
Yeah, I think your accountant CPA is of course I'm a little biased, but I think they're probably your best resource for these kinds of things, because you are talking about financial, payroll related stuff and everything. And if you do business like I do, where I try to be my client's virtual CFO kind of thing, and I look at and work with many facets of their business, from tax to payroll to accounting and strategic elements of planning and so forth. I think that's probably your best resource. And I've had to charge for that service, but I've tried not to, be overly opportunistic about it. I know my clients are going through, a number of them are going through rough times, so we've worked things out where it hasn't been too expensive for them.
I can recommend you, Joe, if you need more people. I can be a referral.
I'm always happy to help someone, but I'm not necessarily in need of any additional work at this point.
You're waiting for your downtime.
Yeah.
I so appreciate both of you guys coming on today. I think there was a lot of really good information. Lisa, did you have any closing remarks or anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, just for those who aren't familiar with what we offer for the chamber, if you to go to legalshield.com/info/Huron Valley, and again, you could put this out on the email blast. It's legalshield.com/info/Huron Valley. That goes into detail what our plans are. Because outside of the additional free resources, for those that want to, be able to have unlimited access to a law firm on a regular basis, like Joe said, you want to give as many free resources as we can. But then there's also that point where, as a business owner, I can't imagine. Every successful business deals with their attorneys, and it doesn't negate that relationship you would have with your counsel. But when I ask small business owners, are you using your attorneys whenever you'd like to, or just when you absolutely have to? It's always just when we absolutely have to, because of cost, and especially in today's environment. But for $40 a month for a small business, or $90 a month, depending on how many employees you have that unlimited access. So you can use that unlimited to ask those daily questions or document reviews or letter writing or whatever it might be, in addition to the free resources that are there. So I want to make sure that people know that there's not just the family plan, but the business plans that are available through the chamber at a discounted rate, that aren't going to be financially prohibitive for a family or for a business at a time when you really need it most. Because these are really legal matters when you think about it. The laws that are being passed, it's really an attorney you need to reach out to as far as truly deciphering what that means to the individual or to the business as far as the legal side of it goes.
Yeah, that's great. I will put that in there too.
Okay.
Any last things from you, Joe?
Just be patient with this PPP process. Try not to panic. The forgiveness, just because your 8 weeks is up doesn't mean you have to do the forgiveness application immediately. I understand the anxiety about wanting to make sure that it is forgiven. But I suspect that there will be some new legislation that is going to impact that. So be a little patient with that. And I wish everybody the best of luck dealing with all this. And as long as we keep working together, I think we'll all make it.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get there, right? Hang in there, people, for sure.
Yep.
Thank you so much, both of you. This has been really great. Lots of good information. It was great to see both of you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joelle. Appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks. Take care.
all right.